Many people, including a lot of politicians, seem to think that when you cut tax rates, tax revenues can actually rise. Today, we're going to talk about whether they're right. The idea originally came from Arthur Laffer, an economist in the Reagan administration. Legend has it that he first sketched out his theory on a cocktail napkin. So I'm going to do the same thing. Along the bottom, we're going to look at the tax rate, which goes from 0 to 100%. Up the side, we're going to measure the amount of revenue brought in by the tax. A tax rate of 0 will bring you 0 revenue. And as you increase the tax rate, the revenue rises, like you'd expect. But Laffer argued that after tax rates rise past a certain point, people stop working as hard. Businesses stop investing as much because the higher taxes are eating up the gains that they would have gotten from working or investing. So even as the tax rates go higher, the revenue declines because the economy is actually shrinking. That means that if you're on the right side of the Laffer curve, you can cut tax rates and revenues will actually increase because people work more and businesses invest more. This is part of the theory known as supply-side economics. But is this theory valid? Let's think it through. Let's look at an imaginary country called Laurasia. Let's say that it has a very small, very simple economy with a GDP of just $400. Say the Laurasian government has a flat tax of 25%. That would bring in a tax revenue of $100. Then they cut the tax rate down to 20%. It seems like that would cut the tax revenue down to $80. But wait, the Laurasian supply-siders say, with that lower tax, people will work more. The economy will grow, and a larger economy will generate higher tax revenues. Okay, so for Laurasia, how much would the economy have to grow to bring the tax revenues back up to $100? GDP would have to go up to $500. That's a 25% increase. Now, is it reasonable to expect GDP to grow by 25%? Well, here in the US, we consider 3% growth to be very fast growth. That's what we had here in the 1990s. China, one of the world's fastest growing economies, sometimes gets all the way up to 8 or 9% growth. So expecting GDP to grow by 25% is just ludicrous. Put it another way, in order for a larger economy to bring the tax revenues back up to $100, every worker in the economy would have to go from working 40 hours a week to 50 hours a week, just because their tax rates fell by 5%. Now, don't get me wrong, when we cut taxes, people do work harder, businesses do invest more. That's true. It's just that the size of the effect is nowhere near large enough to balance out the tax revenues. But don't take my word for it. Over the past 30 years, we've had 3 great tests of this theory. In the 1980s, Reagan cut tax rates, and tax revenues fell. In the 1990s, Clinton raised tax rates, and tax revenues went up. In the past decade, Bush cut tax rates again, and tax revenues fell again. Now, some of you are saying, wait a minute, Bush cut tax rates, and a couple of years later, weren't tax revenues higher than they were before the tax cut? The thing is, economies naturally grow over time, mostly because of population growth. Pick any 2 years, and GDP is going to be higher in the second year, not because people are working harder, but simply because we have more people. The real question to ask is whether revenues after the tax cut were higher or lower than they would have been without the tax cut. And economists pretty much agree that tax revenues are lower than they would have been without the tax cut. So while the Laffer curve might exist, there's just no evidence that we've ever been on the side of it where cutting taxes raises tax revenue. And who is EconGuy? I'm Patrick Walsh. I'm an associate professor of economics at St. Michael's College near Burlington, Vermont.